The automotive world is changing at the moment, a hell of a lot, and with lots of new rules, regulations and technologies being introduced, gradually some of the older stuff is becoming irrelevant. And one of these things is diesel. But is that really such a bad thing? Hello YouTube, Miller Corner here, welcome back once again, and today I want to talk about something very topical for car fans across the world because it's all the new emissions regulations and the crackdown on pollution that countries across the globe have started to do over the last few months. In fact, in an effort to reduce their pollution, crack down on carbon emissions and in some cases get rid of internal combustion in their country altogether, countries are setting ridiculously soon deadlines on any sales of petrol or diesel powered vehicles. Some countries in Europe, for example, are saying that by 2030 they're going to totally ban new petrol and diesel powered cars, and all vehicles in fact, in their country. That's a little bit over 12 years away. That's not even enough time to get a kid through school to totally ban any brand new internal combustion powered vehicles, which means that's put a lot of pressure on manufacturers obviously to get new electric technology and other new car technologies on the road and get an infrastructure for it extremely quickly. In just over a decade, their time is up. As much as they're trying to get rid of new polluting vehicles that use internal combustion, they're also cracking down on the older ones, and particularly in Britain at least, diesels, because in recent weeks and months you might have read that the road tax rates, that's how much you pay for your vehicle to use the road in the UK, have actually gone up for pretty much every car. But particularly diesels suffered a lot with the new road tax rates, and they went up considerably. In recent weeks, in fact, as well as the congestion charge you pay for driving through certain highly populated areas in London, there's also going to be a new pollution charge for anyone who's driving a vehicle that isn't Euro 4 compliant, and that's anything as new as 2009. It's clear to see that this country and its government don't see much of a future in diesel powered cars, which is kind of a reversal of what happened about 10 or 12 years ago when diesel was seen as the miracle fuel for cars. In fact, it meant you could get more miles per gallon than a petrol powered car, a lot more torque, very nearly as much power, and all for about the same price. And now people are realising that that's the opposite. They're realising that diesels pollute more than petrol powered cars do, they're noisier, and the fact of the matter is they're generally worse for the planet, which is why gradually I think the government are trying to stop us from using diesel powered cars. And I think this is a good thing. Now I know that's a bit of a controversial statement, and I'm fully aware that I'm probably going to get a lot of thumbs down and hate comments for what I've just said. Lots of people saying, oh, you're an idiot. But bear with me, because there are actually a few reasons why getting rid certainly of new diesel powered vehicles isn't actually going to be that bad, and actually might be a good thing for the UK. Let's start with performance. Yeah, that's the big thing that all petrol heads think about and talk about when they're going to be buying a car, whether it's new or second hand. And you might say, yeah, but they make performance diesel powered cars, and you'd be absolutely right. In fact, one of my favourite hot hatches of the early 2000s, the Skoda Fabia VRS, famously used a diesel engine and was as fast as a petrol-powered Mini Cooper. And I applaud the Skoda for that. I think it's a great little car, and one day I might even own one. You can try all you like to squeeze every little bit of power out of a diesel-powered car you like, and you can get some fantastic results. But it takes time to get there, and it was the same with the Skoda. There's no such thing as a diesel having get up and go. I've recently driven, in fact, a turbo diesel Ford Galaxy. Now I know that's a big car, I know it's a heavy car, and I know it's not a performance car, but hear me out on this, because it has a 2.2 litre turbo diesel engine. That's a big engine capacity. Below 2000 RPM, in pretty much any gear, there's not much. There's very little, and you can put as many turbochargers on it as you like. That still won't necessarily give you the instant response that you get from a petrol-powered engine. And at the end of the day, initial acceleration is the exciting bit. Turbo lag is all well and good, but you've got to have somewhere to use it. Yes, diesel can offer some impressive performance figures, but it takes so long to happen that it's on a par with VTEC in terms of waiting for something to actually occur. The next issue is economy. Oh yes, everyone who's interested in diesel will be saying, yes, economy, there we are, diesel, that's where diesel is better than petrol. I will concede that. We'll go back to that Ford Galaxy I was talking about. I did a big motorway journey in it, stuck it in 6th gear at 70 miles an hour, and it still averaged over 40 miles to the gallon for a big heavy car laden up with stuff. And that's impressive, I will grant you that. Diesel economy is brilliant. But don't for one minute imagine that petrol cars are as bad as you think. Let's take, for example, and I know a lot of you will probably be thinking of this, the Ford EcoBoost engine that you see in the Fiesta and the Focus. It's a 1 litre, 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine which does 65 miles to the gallon. Yes, it's got a turbo to help it along its way, but because it's a petrol engine, you do have that initial bit of power. So it's compact, it's lightweight, the actual block is no bigger than an A4 piece of paper, and it will still do 65 miles to the gallon. So unfortunately, you can't really make that economy argument with diesels so much. You can get a Ford Focus with the aforementioned 1 litre EcoBoost, and it will achieve relatively similar economy to the 1.6 diesel Focus, with the added benefit, of course, of more low-down power and more power overall in some applications. Now, I know what you're all going to be saying, the reliability of the 3-cylinder EcoBoost needs rebuilding after 50,000 miles, blah blah blah, but they had to start somewhere, and they are starting somewhere. At the end of the day, it's a mightily impressive engine they've put in the Fiesta and the Focus. A 1 litre, 3-cylinder engine that makes, in some cases, 140 horsepower and does over 60 miles to the gallon? That's an incredible achievement. Okay, the longevity is questionable, but again, there will be improvements, that technology will evolve as it has to. So for as much as diesel economy continues to be extremely impressive, there are modern, high-tech petrol engines that are matching and in some cases even beating the economy set by diesel counterparts in relatively large family cars. And in 5 years' time, who knows where something similar to the EcoBoost engine could be. Then there's the noise, and this is a big talking point amongst diesel fans and petrol fans. Diesel engines are commonly known for that clatter, to sound a little bit like a dumper truck, particularly if it's an older and more unrefined engine. But there are some that sound good. I will grant you that. For example, an Audi A5 diesel with a performance exhaust on it sounds really, really good. But very, very few tuned diesel engines, even with a nice exhaust on it, can hold a candle to what a petrol-powered engine can make. Now, obviously, noise is somewhat subjective, but if you grab a handful of petrol, a handful of diesel, and sample the sounds and say which one sounds better, I reckon the vast majority of people, certainly in some sort of blind experiment, would say that the petrol sounds better. That clatter of a diesel, even a refined clatter like on a modern diesel, is not that appealing to most of us. Let's talk about 4 or 5 years down the line. Your warranty has probably expired unless you drive a Kia, and you're out and about, and all of a sudden something breaks. That happens. Things break on cars. We know that they fatigue, they wear out, they snap, they break. However, when things break on a modern diesel, you're looking at a bit more of a disaster. Most modern diesels use something called common rail injection. In fact, pretty much every modern diesel uses common rail injection, and that's been going on since about 1997, 1998. It became widespread in diesel-powered cars, and that's brilliant. And what that means is we've got really powerful diesel injection going into the engine and making more power and more torque, and that's brilliant. However, those injectors and those fuel pumps are going to be under immense pressure to deliver the results that we're looking at. The average diesel injector is under between 10 and 20,000 psi of pressure going into it, and that's enough that if you held your hand in front of it, it would blow a hole straight through it. And of course, on any kind of component, that's going to be extreme fatigue. So these injectors wear out and the pumps wear out, and you think, okay, replace them, and that sounds well and good. In fact, the injectors themselves are so tightly clamped in that you use special equipment to get the injectors out of the engine. But once you've got them out, you just put new ones in, you buy new ones, put them in, plug everything back in, and you go on your way. No. That's the case with a brand new petrol-powered car. With diesel-powered cars, because they're common rail, because it's so powerful and so technical, everything is coded. The fuel pumps are coded and the injectors are coded. Can you get the equipment yourself? No. Can you do it in a little backstreet garage? No. Do you have to go to the manufacturer, to an official manufacturer-approved workshop to get it done? You bet you do, and because you can't get it done anywhere else, they're going to charge you a small fortune to replace these pumps and injectors that are under immense high pressure when they fail, to get them coded so they work with your car's ECU. A little while back, my dad owned a 2002 Ford Mondeo with a 2-litre diesel engine, and it was pretty fast and very economical. In fact, it did over 40 miles to the gallon while loaded up with holiday gear and towing a caravan. However, one day we were driving along and it just sort of got a bit stumbly, didn't have that much pull to it anymore, so we took it to a garage and they said that one of the injectors had failed. Because all these injectors are under such high stress, one failing is the sign that gradually they're all going to fail. So they all had to be replaced, and indeed they all were. They were pulled out, new ones were put in, and had to be coded by Ford. Bearing in mind this car is a 2002 car, it's in reasonable condition, and it's done around about 95,000 miles at the time. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. They decided to charge him for 4 injectors on a car that is only worth about £1,000. They charged him £1,200, which essentially made the car largely worthless, and selling the car only recouped the cost of the injector replacement. £1,200 on a 15-year-old car! And it's much the same with a lot of these things. My dad's a transport manager for a building company that runs a fleet of vans, and one of the most common vans they use are the Vauxhall Vivaro. If you want to put a new set of injectors and a new fuel pump in your Vivaro, you're going to be looking at a bill around £3,000 to replace them, in fact. And this is for a relatively low-rung thing like a Vauxhall or a Ford. Imagine what it would be like for something like a BMW or a Mercedes or a Jaguar. So essentially what you're driving around in is something that one day will just decide to be worthless. And you might think, oh, okay, maybe they've got a bit of longevity to them. Hold on. My dad's company has had to put new injectors and fuel pumps into Vivaros that have done just 60,000 miles. When, not if, when your pump and or injectors fail, you're going to be looking at a big old bill, possibly for the value of the car. And if you've got a car worth £5,000, you're not going to want to scrap it. It's a big decision to have to make, and it's a decision that only has to happen with diesel powered vehicles. But of course there's the big argument that I'm sure a lot of you will have been thinking of. What about commercial vehicles? What about lorries? What about buses? What about taxis? Well, consider this. Taxis can be sorted. For argument's sake, in Brighton on the coast, they're already using hybrid powered buses to cut down their emissions and to raise the fuel economy. When you think about it, there could be a revolution as far as commercial vehicles are concerned as well. Take electric motors. Instant torque, 100% of it from the word go. Don't tell me that wouldn't be useful in a truck carrying a load of stuff. There's a long way to go, obviously. We need to work out the range, the charging points, the infrastructure. There's a lot more to come. What it's going to take is the manufacturers putting billions of dollars into research and development to create this technology. We have to have faith in them to be able to do it, and there's nothing we can do. The governments have set their deadlines. They've said when you're not going to be able to sell anything new that's internal combustion engine powered, and now the manufacturers have got to crack down and knuckle down, get to it, and start creating some fantastic new creations and technology to move the world forward. Whilst diesel has been good and it had its moment in the light, we've now got to gradually phase it out. Electricity might not necessarily be the future for vehicles, but we've got to give it a chance. We've got to try something because the world is moving on. The fossil fuels are gradually running out. We've got to start somewhere. As much as we don't want to say it, I know a lot of people don't want to say it, I think we need to say goodbye to the black pump beasts. Thanks so much for watching the video, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, don't forget to click that thumbs up button and also subscribe for more Miller Corner videos in your subscriptions box as soon as they are released. And what are your thoughts on the future of diesel? Definitely be sure to let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that very soon black pumps could be a thing of the past? But for now, thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a brilliant rest of your day. See you soon, and have a good one.